All right, let's go ahead and get started on today's lesson, determining the central idea. Please refer to this anchor chart and use these sentence stems to help guide your thinking as you point out some of the main points the author wants to make within the text for today. All right, the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and click pause on this video, and I want you to draw inferences from these photos, and I want you to just think about some topics and some of the main points that the author or the photographer wants you to get just by looking at these photos, as it will provide us with more context for our text that we will be reading today. All right, now that you've had a chance to draw some inferences from the photos, our text for today is called I Live in a Refugee Camp. Before we begin reading the actual text, we're going to do what's called reading around the text, which means we're just going to look at our titles and headings just to give us an idea of some of the main topics that the author will be providing us with in this text. So I noticed that the first topic and heading says, I live in a refugee camp, come into my world. This is our title. The next heading says, crisis after crisis. So I know that this section is dealing with a crisis or multiple crises. The next section of the text is called Life in the Camp. This lets me know that this section of the text and the topic will be about life living in a refugee camp. Okay? Our next section of our text is called What's Next? This provides me with the topic of this section and lets me know what will happen next after life in a refugee camp, followed by the next section, World of Uncertainty, okay, providing me with more context regarding the topic of this section. And then we have Vision for the Future. All right, let's move on. All right, so we're going to use this chart to help us to identify supporting details within the text. We're going to highlight history of refugee camps in green. We're going to highlight our daily life in a refugee camp in pink. Okay, we're just going to use our highlighter, and then we're going to use our yellow highlighter to highlight anything that talks about the future of refugees, like Bilan, our main character in the text. So all we're doing is just separating supporting details based on the topic, okay? So here is our first read of the text. Notice, and please hit pause on your screen so that you can read through this, but notice how I have highlighted anything dealing with the history of refugee camps in green on this page, okay? Now I'm going to move on. Notice how I have highlighted in pink the daily life in the camp. Okay, please hit pause and read through this. Notice the main points that have been highlighted, followed by some more highlights regarding the daily life in a refugee camp. Okay, I see here in pink, well organized, clean, bustling market, essentials. And then I'm going to move on to the last section here. Notice it's highlighted in this yellow here. This is giving me more information and details about the future of refugee camps. Okay, so please feel free to hit pause, read through the text, and notice what has been highlighted. And I'm going to use that and put it into my graphic organizer. All right, so you're going to go ahead and continue to close read and analyze details from the text. Please just scroll back to the text and refer to the handout that has been posted on the website if you need a hard copy of the passage, I live in a refugee camp. All right, let's move on to the next slide so that you can see how your answer should look in your graphic organizer. All right, so notice how in my first column here in green, notice how this entire column here is everything that I highlighted in green within the close read, okay? Notice my middle column here is everything that I highlighted in pink. Daily life of a refugee. It's highlighted in this column. So I just pulled the information out and I put it into my graphic organizer. Please compare my answers to yours. And then the last column is everything that I highlighted in yellow. regarding the future of the refugee camps. So I've taken the information based on the topic, which is at the top here. I've separated into 3 topics: daily life, history, and the future of refugees. And then I've just pulled out the supporting details by highlighting and close reading, and I put it into my graphic organizer. Let's move on. Notice how I can use these sentence stems on my anchor chart to help form central idea sentences with supporting details, okay? And I'm going to show you what this would look like in a constructive response on the next slide. Okay, so I've taken some of my details here in my chart. So I'm just using some of these details that I pulled out, and I'm going to put them into my sentence stems to form central ideas. My first central idea right here. Central idea number 1, refugee camps are formed when people's lives are in danger. This is like the topic sentence of the first paragraph. Okay, this idea is developed by details like, I'm pulling it from over here in my chart. Bilal and her family fled to Ethiopia from Somalia because of the government collapse and drought. My second central idea, pulled it from my supporting details. Refugee camps like the Kobe in Somalia provide the basics to refugees so they can survive. So those are 2 central ideas, okay? So now I want you to think about the third central idea based on the details in your chart over here and the details provided and put into your own words, okay?